Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 10-minute Bible lesson. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you joining us. We're doing our lessons in the book of Judges, and obviously we're covering some of the judges. And the judges, they were deliverers that God raised up to deliver the children of Israel. Now, I had to ask you this, and I'll ask myself the same question. Have you ever needed a deliverer? Have you ever needed someone that you felt like, man, I need someone to deliver me out of this trouble that I'm in? Or maybe it's just something else. Maybe I need someone to deliver me out of my sins. And the good news is, do you know who the great deliverer is? Well, let me give you a hint. His name starts with a J and ends with an S, and his name's Jesus. And he's really the deliverer for all mankind. Well, now, God raised up Gideon. Do you remember Gideon? We're talking about Gideon, and he's kind of an unlikely guy. If you read about him, that you and I probably wouldn't have picked Gideon, but listen, we're not the ones who has the power. God has the power. So he used Gideon to do a mighty work so that it may bring glory to the Lord. And so he chose Gideon. Now, he did something for Gideon which was strange. He allowed Gideon to hear a dream from a man in the enemy's camp. That's right. In other words, there were two men from the Midianites, and this one man was telling this dream to his companion. And he told this dream to his companion, and God allowed Gideon to go down there and hear this dream. God wanted him to hear this dream. And this dream, of all things, it was about a barley loaf. And this dream was a barley loaf, about a barley loaf rolling down into the camp of the Midianites. And it struck a tent, and it caused this tent to collapse. And he's telling his buddy this. And here's what his buddy says in Judges chapter 7, verse 15. Then his companion answered and said, "This is nothing else but the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. Into his hand God has delivered Midian and the whole camp." Now, God allowed Gideon to hear this. Now, no doubt, it not only boosted Gideon's faith, but it boosted his confidence. And it was really an amazing thing if you think about that, because I believe that God put fear into this great host of Israel's enemies. He put fear in their heart. And not only did he do that, but I believe God was the one that caused this man to have this dream. And he must have had something to do with his companion being able to interpret that dream. And not only on top of that, but he had Gideon go down there at the right spot and at the right time, and for Gideon to be able to hear that. Now, to me, that's just an amazing thing. Now, remember the phrase that this man's companion said. He said, "This is nothing else but the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash." Now, Gideon, after he heard all of that, what do you think was his response? Well, the Bible tells us, it's in Judges chapter 7, verse 15. Let's read about it. "And so it was when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and its interpretation that he worshiped." Now, let me pause there just a minute. Now, I love this about Gideon. It just does something for my heart that when God does something for Gideon, his response is to worship God. And you know what? This is the third time in the story of Gideon where we see that Gideon has worshiped the Lord because God has done something for him. So he worshiped. Then it says he returned to the camp of Israel and said, "Arise, for the Lord has delivered the camp of Midian into your hand." Now, you have to ask the question, what kind of battle plan did Gideon have? Well, I can tell you it was something that we would have never imagined. Now, remember, God had reduced his forces down to 300. Remember that? And so what Gideon did, he put 100 in 3 different companies. And then he did this. He put trumpets in their hands, in each person's hand, and then he gave them pictures. And inside the pictures, there were torches. And he told them, I want you to do exactly what I do. So when Gideon blew the trumpet, they were to blow the trumpet. And when he broke the pitcher, they were to break the pitcher and hold the torches and say, the sword of the Lord and Gideon. And they were to do this at just a certain time. And it was like when the Midianites were changing their guards around their camp. And the Bible says it was in the middle watch. Well, let's go ahead and read chapter 7 in Judges, verses 20 and 21, and we'll see what happens. See if this battle plan worked. Then the three companies blew the trumpets and broke the pitchers. They held the torches in their left hands and the trumpets in their right hands for blowing. And they cried, the sword of the Lord and Gideon. And every man stood in his place all around the camp. And the whole army ran and cried out and fled. Now, the Bible says this, that the Lord calls this, He calls every man's sword to be against his companion. Oh, that's scary, isn't it? That's an amazing thing. And that happened throughout all of the camp of the Midianites. So the Lord did this. And when He did this, the Midianites, and there were enormous numbers of them. That were like locusts. There were so many of them. They just fled and went crazy. Now, if you remember back after God had reduced the army, He told 9,700 of them to go back to their tent. So after this initial attack, they were all gathered together and they attacked the Midianite. And you know what? They gathered together and they got into this battle, and it was a great battle. And not only was it a great battle, but God gave them a great and mighty victory. The Lord did all of that. And you know what? It was exactly like He told Gideon. Do you remember when He first met Gideon and Gideon was threshing wheat down in the wine press and hiding it? And He said, the Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor. And he said, well, really, the Lord's with us? Why is all this happening? God has brought to pass the word that He spoke. Well, listen, that's about all we have on Gideon. We may mention one other little thing next time, but can you think about who we're going to talk about next time? Let me tell you, it's a guy that has really, really long hair. And if you'll join us next time, we'll remember to talk about this next judge. But thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have a good week.